Welcome to the world of anime recaps. And today's recap will be about the epic tale told in the show, The Adventures of Sibbad. In a small town in Parthivia, a boy named Sibbad was born to Badr, who was an ex-war hero, and his loving and kind wife Ezra. Every single mage in the world felt the arrival of a singularity who will change the world and rule it, called the Child of Destiny. Sibbad's birth was a clear indication to Badr and Ezra, as well as this child is no ordinary child, and is born into this world to rule the seven seas. The situation of the small village changed after a while, as the empire is under war and now demands Badr to fight in the war for them. However, Badr keeps refusing due to his family, despite the behavior of the villagers as well. Badr gets beaten up by the villagers multiple times, as well as they demand him to leave the village and use his skills to fight for them. Badr stays peaceful with them and still politely asks them to kindly let him do his fishing. Sibbad, who was a talking child, observes all this and asks Badr about how he could let those villagers beat him up so badly. Sibbad runs away after getting upset from seeing all those people beating his father up and his father not doing anything at all. Ezra consoles Sibbad throughout all these events. Badr was enjoying life with his kid and wife when things took a turn for the worse. On a usual day, Sibbad brings an injured man with him back home, whom he found just outside the village. Badr helps in treating the man's wounds and makes sure that all of his wounds are treated well. Ezra cooks food for him as well, and Badr lets him stay with them for the time being. The stranger was a huge man who later reveals himself as a spy of the Rhyme Nation. The man kills people and guards of the village and takes Sibbad as hostage while demanding Badr to fulfill his demands, or else he will slit Sibbad's throat open. To everyone's surprise, instead of fighting the spy back, Badr gets down on his knees and begs the man to leave Sibbad out of this since he's innocent and Badr loves him. Badr suggests the man to change sides and instead join Parthian forces to help them fight against the Rhyme Nation instead. This makes the strange man explode out of anger, and while he's explaining his patriotism, Badr suddenly dashes forward and stabs the man with his own weapon to save Sibbad. The news spreads in the empire and the king releases orders against Badr, and he's forced to leave the village under false accusation by the army as they threaten to throw Ezra and Sibbad out as well. Badr left the village to fight in the war while telling his son to be a good man and achieve things in the future. Ezra cries and begs the army to leave Badr be, but she couldn't do anything to change the situation, and in the end had to bear with the tyranny of the empire and the army. Years later, Badr's sword came back to the village, telling everyone that he had died fighting in the war. Years had passed, and Sibbad had turned into a promising young 14-year-old. Sibbad was wandering around the town, where he beat a few people who were bothering some girls as they were taking their cart around town to sell their fruits. The girls offered to give Sibbad some fruits as a thanks for helping them out. One of the girls opens the barrel of the fruits and finds out a strange man inside the barrel. Sibbad joins in on the man's journey back to his own village, and the guy reveals his name to be Yunnan. He tells Sibbad that he's just a tourist and has a thing for staying in tight and close places. Quite the ideal preference, no? At that time in the world, strange places named dungeons had appeared, and just recently, an army of 10,000 had died in an attempt to conquer one. Sibbad arrived back at the village and took Yunnan back to his house, where Ezra made food for them. Ezra is revealed to be seriously sick and tells Yunnan about missing Badr and how she wishes for Sibbad to be safe through his life after Sibbad went out for something. An old woman from the town rushes to break the news that Sibbad is cornered by soldiers of the empire in the village. The empire of Parthivia kept pressuring Sibbad into joining the army and clearing the dungeon. The leader of the army's troops named Drakon confronts Sibbad and beats him up badly while asking him to join the army. Drakon tries to recruit him while threatening to throw his sick mother out of the village. Sibbad, who's applying bandages to his wounds, is approached by Yunnan, and he explains his theories and ideals to him. Yunnan saw promise in Sibbad's words and advised him to go and conquer the dungeon before the army does it, while wishing to see what his future holds. The scene shifts to the army of the empire led by Drakon being ordered to go to the dungeon by the king. Sibbad decides to charge in the dungeon before the army as they prepare to conquer it. Sibbad enters the dungeon followed by the army led by Drakon after mocking them. Sibbad and the whole army are surprised to find out that there is a whole different world behind the gate of the dungeon that's filled with monsters. Monsters who look like dragons attack the whole group that just entered and start killing every one of them. The army tries to fight for their lives against the monsters, but the skins of the dragons turn out to be too tough to pierce, and the monsters continue to tear the whole army apart until only Sibbad and Draken are left alive. The monsters give Drakon a good chase as all of his attempts to save his life and get away fail one after the other. Drakon soon realizes about his chance against the dragon and decides to accept his fate, preparing to die from the monster inside the dungeon. Drakon is about to be killed by the monster but is saved by Sibbad, who shows promise in his fighting skills. He gives Drakon a speech, and Sibbad uses his spear to finally kill the monster. Unluckily for them, that monster was not the only one hungry to take their life in the dungeon. The pair gets attacked by monsters one after the other and decides to hide in a cave to give themselves some time to plan their approach after they witness a dragon that's the size of a whale. Drakon and Sibbad form an unlikely alliance to get out of the dungeon by clearing it. Sibbad saves Drakon multiple times and keeps his head in the game with his speeches. Drakon realizes the potential of Sibbad as a leader and in the back of his head decides to follow along with him with the hope of clearing the dungeon in one piece. They find a path behind a dragon den and follow it to come across a huge door, presumably leading to the reward chamber. Drakon rushes forward by himself after killing a few little dragons and tries to open the door by himself. He comes to know that the door won't open and the king of the dragons witnesses his presence there. Drakon tries his best to attack the dragon, but it has no effect on him. Sibbad yet again wakes up a Drakon who has left his will and uses Drakon's shield to guide himself through the waves nearby to get to a vantage point on the dragon. Sibbad attacks the dragon from high up in the sky and succeeds in killing the king of the dragons, rewarding himself with 2 ball-looking objects. He uses those balls to successfully open the door this time and to continue their journey ahead. They pass through various obstacles and defeat various small monsters on their way through this tough path of the dungeon. The two manage to enter the final reward room after defeating the monsters and witness the appearance of Jinn of Lightning named Baal after Sibbad rubs a magical lamp that was in the reward room. The Jinn tells them about his power and he offers his power to one of them. Both of them want the power for themselves and they decide to settle the matter with a simple duel. The two face each other in a duel with their weapons. Drakon beats Sibbad and dominates him in a sword fight due to his army training, but Sibbad refuses to let the power go and punches Drakon, making him unable to fight. Despite being the inferior swordsman, Sibbad defeats Drakon and earns the lightning power of Baal, clearing the dungeon and making it disappear. Sibbad comes to know about the whole army of the Empire waiting for him to come out. He shows his new power of lightning to the army, and they demand Sibbad to surrender the power and rewards to them, but Sibbad gets the rewards back to his village with a little help of Yunnan, who helps him get away with his magic. Back at the village, Sibbad is welcomed with the news of his mother's state that has gotten even worse. Sibbad rushes back to his place in worry, leaving the treasure and rewards behind. He reaches his mother and she passes away in his arms while telling him to do and achieve great things in life. Ezra also remarks about her love for Badir and how she still misses him despite all these years before she passes away. Sibbad sets on a journey in the sea to conquer the world, and the scene shifts to 2 people trying to fight a sea monster off. The big guy tries to attack but fails due to the monster's skin. The monster flips their boat, making the girl fall into the water as well. The guy tries to save the girl but outswimming the monster. The two get pushed hard, but before they get eaten by the monster, Sibbad uses his power and saves the two. They're revealed to be siblings named Hinahoho and Pipirika. Sibbad takes the siblings to a nearby island where Theri village is located. Paprika assumes that her brother was the one who defeated the monster and she congratulates him about it. The siblings tell Sibbad about their village and Sibbad requests to go with them after they finish eating at the beach. They tell Sibbad that he won't be accepted in their village, but Sibbad makes them accept as he insists. Sibbad visits their village as his first step to conquering the world. The people of the village get suspicious of Sibbad and Hinahoho's father congratulates his son for finally becoming a real man after defeating the monster. Sibbad joins in the chat between Hinahoho and his father and gets recognized by Hinahoho's father later after he shows him his magic powers of lightning. After getting a tough treatment at first, the villagers finally acknowledge him. Hinahoho feels guilty when everyone at the village congratulates him for becoming a warrior without knowing that Sinbad was the one who defeated the monster. Hinahoho's father tells them about the dungeon nearby, and Hinahoho shows the will to conquer the dungeon alone to become more like Sinbad himself. Trekon can be seen back at the Empire, where the king gives him another chance and assigns to conquer the dungeon near Hinahoho's village. Trekon sends a group of 3 assassins to find and kill Sinbad as well. Sinbad tries to stop Hinahoho from his stupidity and warns everyone about the dangers a dungeon like that brings, but Hinahoho enters the dungeon on his own and is surprised to see a whole new world inside. Back at the village, Sinbad catches an assassin sent by the Empire. The assassin turns out to be a little child who won't answer a single question Sinbad asks him. Sinbad later goes after Hinahoho after the assassin escapes. Hinahoho gets jumped by the team of the same assassin and gets pushed to a corner. Trekon is revealed to be with the assassins and has brought the mage with him. Hinahoho shows the determination to fight all of them together, and their fight begins. Sinbad intervenes and saves Hinahoho. However, he gets outnumbered by Trekon's men. The two end up falling in the water, and the mage tries to seal them in by freezing the whole river. They tried their best to run, but as Sinbad is about to be caught in the ice, Hinahoho helps him get out. The assassins arrive at the reward chamber along with Trekon and his mage, who's revealed to be named Felon, but the djinn gets bored of them after hearing Trekon's reasoning to obtain his power. The fierce djinn turns into a little cat, telling them to play a game of catching a cat to get his power after Sinbad arrives at the scene. Everyone tries, but at the end, Sinbad grabs the cat, winning the game after manipulating the others. The rest get angry with him, but he delivers an epic speech, telling others to follow him in his conquest. The mage named Fallon attacks the rest by using the assassins to form a giant magical monster betraying Trekon too. The group seems to be at the disadvantage when Sinbad leads the team, encouraging Hinahoho into delivering a successful blow at last. The rest of the group accepts Sinbad as their leader after he consults Jabbar, the assassin kid. Sinbad gains the power of the djinn and moves to the next town to become a merchant after he visits Hinahoho's village again. His journey at the new town as a merchant seems to come with more problems as he has no idea about how selling stuff requires a shopfront. He sells his goods to a mysterious man who sells the same goods at his shop later with 10 times the price. The crew gets demotivated, but Sinbad encourages them. Sinbad meets the man at a restaurant and asks him to teach him ways to be a merchant. The man likes Sinbad, but asks him to earn his trust by collecting 1,000 coins first in the next month. Sinbad decides to gain popularity in the town by delivering speeches and telling his tales. The man gets impressed by all this and reveals his identity as King Rashid, even though Sinbad wasn't able to collect 1,000 coins. He helps Sinbad by giving him 1,000 coins from his own pocket and tells him the ways to be a good merchant and the importance of trading to conquer the world. Jabbar arrives at the city with the rest of the crew to find out that Sinbad's plays were so popular in town that theaters couldn't fit the audience at this point. While Sinbad fills the audience with passion through his speech, Hinahoho's kid gets kidnapped and is about to be eaten by a monster who's saved by Jabbar with the power he got after following Sinbad. Sinbad established a company to form a new country later named the Sindria Trading Company. It took Jabbar and Hinahoho to establish relations with the Assassin's Kingdom. The kingdom didn't welcome them well, but they met a guy named Mistras who told them about things around. He was the son of the ruler Darius and later got into a duel with his father so that his father would let him go on his own path in life. Mistras loses the duel. Darius is about to kill him when Sinbad interferes and proposes a duel. After attacking him with his usual ways won't work since Darius is a conqueror of a dungeon himself and has the ability to protect himself with a magical shield, Sinbad uses his djinn power to form an armor. He takes Darius out of the stadium to faraway mountains and showed him his real power by demolishing mountains in a single blow to terrorize Darius, making himself an equal of Darius, since Darius has no interest in having Sinbad as an enemy of the Assassin Kingdom. They establish relations with the Sindria Trading Company, and Sinbad comes across Yunnan during his trip to the kingdom. Mistras joins Sinbad and the crew, heads to their next destination being the king of Artemira, led by a noble princess named Mira. The land of Artemira consisted of beautiful valleys. The land is inhabited by beautiful women, and a couple of them try to charm Sinbad on their way to the mainland, but instead get charmed by Sinbad's attraction. The The crew reaches the mainland and immediately decides to look for the queen. The path to the palace consisted of many hurdles, providing us with some more hilarious interactions, as Sibbad turns out to be quite lazy in these scenarios. Sibbad and his crew meet the queen immediately and pitch their plan of diplomatic relations in front of her, but it turns out that Queen Mira has absolutely no interest in forming diplomatic relations with men, as she finds them inferior. Sibbad tries to make the queen fall for his charm, but the plan backfires and the group gets captured by the guards. They take their belongings and throw them in the Valley of the Dead while leaving Hinahoho outside. They stay in the valley as Jabbar helps them out but get out after a while. They eat snakes to survive, and Jabbar helps them out a lot with his experience in the wild as an assassin. They almost get too comfortable staying in the valley but decide to get out of there after Sibbad suggests a plan. They hide in giant meatloafs and use birds to get back to the land. Sibbad splits up from the two and decides to confront the queen. Sibbad takes his stuff and visits the queen in her sleep, humiliating her in a conversation. The queen gets angry and uses a jinn form of her own to teach Sibbad a lesson. Sibbad takes the form of Baal, equipping his jinn armor as well. The two get into a fierce fight. Mistras keeps worrying about Sibbad, but Jabbar tells him to trust his leader. Sibbad defeats the queen at the end by switching the power of his jinn from Baal to the jinn of deception, even though the queen was confident of her strength. The queen accepts her defeat, and Sibbad later reveals that the secret of him beating the queen was actually by slowing down her movement speed. Sibbad visits the queen sometime later with his whole crew. The queen accepts the establishment of diplomatic relations and allows trade and stuff with Sibbad's Sindria company, since she has no interest in having Sibbad as her opponent. She tells him about the powerful sorcerer who leads king candidates to different dungeons, make it clear to Sibbad that whatever's happening with the dungeon is linked somehow. The queen sees them off as they leave with her daughters. One of the queen's daughters takes a liking to Sibbad and gives them a gift before they leave Artemira. One of the Artemira girls joins Sibbad's team to witness what the future withholds. Sibbad returns to Sindria Trading Company to look forward to more adventures in the future while remembering how he became a merchant and a leader from a poor boy. He looks forward to achieving great things and conquering the world as the adventure of Sibbad continues, with many more interesting things and hilarious interactions to come in the future. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more great anime recaps just like this. I'll see you in the next one. Peace!